Hi loves, it's Laura Chappell here. Today sharing this workshop on anxiety with you. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please share in the comments box below. I would love to hear from you, and I'm wishing you a really beautiful workshop. So I'd like to start just by sharing a little bit around my journey with anxiety. And don't get me wrong, I am still a highly anxious person, as most highly sensitive people are. So I've been suffering with anxiety for around about 15 years now. And it began in social contexts where I would fear being around large groups of people, being around lots of noise, having a need to show up and interact. And my coping mechanism for that would be to numb out the fears that I was experiencing through alcohol, through drugs, and through food. And this coping mechanism didn't last very long, because when I hit my mid-20s, it was almost as though someone had shaken up a fizzy can of Coke and the lid came spraying off. That fear, that anxiety that I was feeling had to be released somehow. So for the past 7 or so years, I have been on this journey of understanding more about myself and understanding anxiety and where it comes from. The anxiety which I experience now today is a lot of anxiousness around my future, around my purpose, around whether I'm really capable enough and good enough to achieve my dreams and reach my goals. Some days are so much worse than others, and some days it is entirely uncontrollable. Just yesterday, I was anxious the entire day, and it really takes a deep sense of knowing to be able to activate your toolkit on those days of heightened sensitivity, on heightened anxiety, to really hold yourself tenderly and move slowly to protect and to hold the fears that are coming up. So for me, this journey of self-discovery is really about understanding the deeper root of your fears and learning to understand them to the point of action. And action doesn't necessarily mean pushing beyond the fears. Action requires deep honesty of how you're feeling and not being afraid to communicate that outwards. So entirely radical honesty and strength is opposite to what we might be taught in the outside world of facing our fears and pushing beyond. Radical honesty and strength requires communicating the fears that you have with a sense of sensitivity and lovingness towards yourself. Anxiety is everywhere. It really is. Even those that are not highly sensitive have their own battles with anxiety. And how can we not, when the world that we live in is as activated and stimulated and technology driven as what it is? No longer is it just the period where we have to step into the real world and get a job enough to cause anxiety, but throughout our whole life we are posed with more and more stimuli and reasons that make us feel not enough and inadequate in who we are. Everywhere that we turn, we have fears activated within us. And those deep-rooted fears are what create anxiety. And the world around us is not going to change at any pace. So what is required is for us to change ourselves, for us to protect ourselves, for us to understand ourselves, And the more deeply that we form a loving relationship with the person that we are and the true person that we are, the more able that we are to live out in the world without having our stuff activated and triggered. We allow it as part of the human experience, but it doesn't touch us in the same way. This is the place that I know that you can get to, that you're already on the path to becoming. I've done it. And this is the journey that we're all taking as we grow deeper in our strength. And the stronger that we become, the more untouchable and unstoppable that we become. And I just want to admire you for your courage, for your bravery to show up in this sensitivity, in this honoring of yourself as you journey back inwards to get to know who that person is. That journey is untethering. That journey is wrought with anxieties and worries and exposure as all of this comes up. So my intention of this workshop is to share the little wisdom and tools that I have with you to equip you with really holding your anxiety in love. Not wishing it wasn't there, but honoring it as a sacred part of you. As humans, we have two flows of energy that create our being, our essence. So we have an upward flow of energy that comes from the earth, and this is our feminine energy. And you can vision this energy as our flow of emotion, the spectrum of emotion that runs all the way from fear up to love. And then we have the downward flow of energy that comes from the sun, the cosmos, source. And this downward flow of energy is what creates our thoughts and our thought processes. This downward flow of energy is what we call consciousness. So these two flows of energy work in tandem, and they come into a place of meeting in the heart. So if you've done any psychology work, you will understand that your emotions and feelings impact your thoughts, and your thoughts impact your emotions. So how we move through the world is a direct response to how we're viewing. So what it is that we view impacts how we feel and how we think. And then it goes the other way around. How we think and how we feel impacts how we experience the reality that we live in. More often than not, we have an emotion, a feeling that is created, that is triggered from something that we have witnessed, experienced, interacted in. And that emotion and feeling becomes first. And that energy sends a signal up to our heart and into our consciousness. And that can trigger either a positive or a negative thinking cycle. So when we understand these two flows of energies and how they work within us, we have an opportunity to regulate and control our feelings and intercept our thoughts. When you begin to tap into your feeling body and acknowledge how you're feeling and allowing that feeling. You can then choose how you wish to think about that. You can feel and witness the thought process arise and choose whether you want to engage in it or if you want to let it go. So from this energetic perspective, the lowest spectrum of emotion that humans have is fear. And more often than not, every other emotion that we feel has a root of a fear within us. Fear, and the deepest root of fear, is what creates anxiety. So when we are feeling anxious butterflies in our hearts, and that butterflies is creating anxious thought patterns, what we need to ask ourselves is, what is the deeper root of the fear that we're feeling, that we're scared of, that is creating this line of energy within us? So when we consider depression from an energetic perspective, depression is the product of grief. It's the product of hurt within our heart. And depression keeps us locked into the past. Until we have been able to fully grieve, fully let go, or fully forgive, we will be energetically stuck in the past. And this is what creates sadness in the body. It creates lethargy. And the thought process that it creates is one of nostalgia, is one of sadness, is one of depth. On the other end of the spectrum, with anxiety, there is fears within our field that we haven't yet accepted and integrated as a part of our being. When we have unhealed fears, unintegrated fears, that deep-rooted fear creates tension within our hearts, what we call anxiety, which is just a bubble of energy. And that then creates scenarios in our mind. And what that does is pulls us into the future. What if this is going to happen? But there are so many different possible scenarios. I don't know where I'm going. All of these ways of thinking are taking our mind into the future. So when we're in the past and when we're in the future, we're not in the present moment. We're not in our bodies. We're not centered and in relation to what is in front of us. So this is why we do this work, to get to know the wounds that we carry within our field so that we can release them and we can come into the center, come into presence. Whenever we are presented with anxiety, there is an opportunity to tap into the deep anchor of our knowing. Anxiety is a signal that there is something that is requiring your strength. What lays underneath the fear is gold. Every time that you have an anxious loop going round in your mind, there is an opportunity to transcend something within you, to receive that gold and drop deeper into your seat of self. This knowing is the feeling of liquid gold within your body. Some call it intuition, others call it source. But when you feel that liquid gold in your body, you tap into your eternal knowing, the one who knows exactly who you are at a soul level and where it is that you're going. So every time that you experience anxiety, the question that you're called to ask yourself is, what is it that I am being called to know? What is it that is true about what I am experiencing? What am I being asked to show up in strength in? Through this level of self-inquiry, we tap into the place of our presence and center and knowing. And as that anxiety dissipates, we step 1 foot further forward with clarity and knowing. So when you feel that tinniness, is what I like to call anxiety, when you're feeling tinny in your body and everything feels a little bit erratic, there's lots of thoughts going on in your mind, what you're being asked in this moment is to stop. It's to take a breath, close down your eyes, and just tune into what is happening in your body, in your mind, without judging it. In that process, you start to tune into the feeling and the body's signals in that moment. As you can connect to that, you can then ask yourself the question, what is it that I am scared of? That question will allow you to get to the very root of this bubbly tinniness of anxiety that's happening in your body. When you can answer that question with certainty and clarity, what it is that you're scared of, you will feel an instantaneous release of your anxiety. You will feel a lift of your anxious thoughts. What is then being asked of you is to ask, can you love the one who is scared? When you can love that scared inner child without wishing it wasn't there, or trying to numb it out or push it to the side. When you can love that scared inner child and accept it for how it is, accept the fear that you're feeling, you take your release to an entirely other level. So this process takes time and it takes patience to really drop down into your seat of self, to sit with exactly what it is that you're feeling, to accept and allow your fear. And what I found through my journey is really every single fear comes back to just two. The fear of not being enough, and the fear of being alone, the fear of being abandoned. When you can get down to that level to understand what it is that your inner child is scared of, this is when you drop into the liquid gold of your knowing. Our intuition, our knowing, can more often than not be so hard to detect. I don't enjoy it when people speak as though anxiety is something that just comes so naturally to individuals, because that's not true. When we are riddled with fear, like we are in our generation of humanity, that fear is more powerful than our inner knowing. And that fear is what takes us off in directions that are not aligned to our path and who we are. So I have deep respect and honor for anybody who is willing to sit with their fears when time and time again that is all that they feel. To continue to sit with them, to understand the wounds and the processes for however long, with continued determination to reach this place of inner knowing and intuition. I have battled for so long with my indecision, with my uncertainty, of really being able to harness and tap into my intuition. There's so many schools of thought out there on what intuition is and how you can read it. And what I like to share with you is a framework that will enable you to become more connected to your true knowing, as opposed to the fearful, driven actions and thoughts that take us off course. I believe our intuition sits at 4 levels of the human body and being. It sits in our mind, that place of clarity and creativity that comes only from the mind when the mind is not operating in fear. It comes from a knowing in the heart, an openness of the heart that we feel when something is aligned, that feels right. It comes from an instinct of the gut. You know, when people speak about gut response, gut reaction, the gut never lies. We have a brain in our gut that is there for us to listen to. And then for women, we have our womb. Our womb that is so radically honest with ourselves that we can tap into guidance at any point. So if ever I'm really struggling with a decision to know which choice to make, which path to go, I run the question through my 4 brains to tap into my intuition. I ask my mind, I feel into my heart, I ask my gut, and I connect into my womb. And at each brain, I find out what the response is. And then intuitively from that, I make a decision. More often than not, our mind can be the place where the fear lies. So the mind's response can be the one that you have to question. Come and take a comfortable seat. Close down your eyes. Feel your body be supported by the ground beneath you. Allow your body to drop a little deeper into the support of the ground. And allow yourself to visualize roots growing from the base of your spine into the ground below. Visualize these roots growing long and strong all the way down into the very earth's core. And at the earth's core lays a beautiful quartz crystal. Visualize your roots growing around this quartz crystal, anchoring your body into the present, firmly supported by the earth, by Gaia below. Become aware of your body once again. Become aware of the feeling in your heart space. Become aware of any anxious, fluttery feelings. And allow your awareness to fall onto the part of the body where you feel this anxiety the most. Breathe into this part of the body. Breathe into these feelings of anxiety. Breathe into them with tenderness. Providing reassurance that you are here to hold space for whatever it is that you feel. Give total permission now for these feelings of anxiety to drop down into the roots, to be released into the earth. Visualize this process of releasing from your body into the ground. Notice how you feel. Breathe into the vessel of your body, acknowledging how it expands and contracts. Connecting back to that place, those feelings. And now asking yourself the question, what is it that I am scared of right now? Allow the answer to come to you. Allow it to come to you in a feeling or a thought. What is it that I am scared of right now? as that answer arrives, I'm going to ask you to pour love onto that fear. Allow that fear to be fully felt, honoring it and sending your loving energy to that fear. Can I love this fear as a part of me? Now I'm going to ask you, can you love the one who is scared? Can you hold compassion and understanding for the one who is experiencing this fear right now? Allow yourself to pour love on this aspect of you. On the one who is fearful, on the one who is scared. Allow your body to surrender a little more onto the ground. Allowing now to release more deeply into the ground as the ground opens up, ready to receive this fear, to replace this feeling in your body of unconditional love. Lay your awareness into the center of your heart, the place of your deep knowing, the place of your truth. And allow any insight, feeling or knowing to connect into this space. What is it that this fear wanted me to know? Invite in this response, either as a feeling, a thought, a visual. Feel it deeply within your heart. Plant it into the alchemizer of your heart space. Allowing yourself to feel the full strength, the full power of your body, of your being, to move forward now with this knowing in full strength and honesty of who you are, showing up as yourself, not apologizing, owning who you are, owning your life in full self-acceptance, in full integrity, in the fullness of the worth and magnificence of your being. Allow it to marinate through every single cell of your body. Allow this speck of truth to grow like a seed, to intertwine with each strand of DNA until it becomes who you are. Breathe into your whole body. Sit a little fuller in yourself. Blink, open your eyes when you're ready. And write down one action that you feel ready to take from this knowing. Thank you so much for joining me today for this deep workshop on anxiety. I really hope that you have not just enjoyed it, but found it insightful. And it has awoken some pieces of insight, a deeper level of understanding of yourself. I would love to hear from you, so if this has activated something within you, just let me know. I'm sending you so much love.